Yeah, Mike. That's the best yeah, Mike, I can do. Yeah, Michael Porter Jr. goes for 39 points, ties a career high, does not get 40. But who cares? Because the Nuggets looked awesome again. The Nuggets won again. Who needs trades? Apparently everybody else, because everybody else got traded. We'll talk about it here on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making this part of your day, being with us Monday through Friday, being an everydayer. That means hanging out with us, whether you're on podcast form, where we do appreciate whatever reviews you can provide on whatever apps that you use, or if you're checking us out at youtube.com/Locked On Nuggets, where we are steaming towards 9K. It's coming. We're going to get there. It's going to happen for us this season. I believe it. We appreciate you guys being part of our community. Today's show is
we should go viral more often on the Lakers Twitter. That definitely helps.
Yeah, just like self-emulate for Lakers fans. Today's episode is sponsored by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. My name's Matt Moore. I write some places and do some things I don't even know anymore. I'm so tired. I can't see. I am Ryan. I'm not kidding when I say I can't see straight. Like I've literally 3 times tonight had to be like, close my eyes for a few minutes to try and get myself to actually adjust. His name's Ryan Blackburn. He's a Mile High Sports and the Pickaxe and Roll podcast. Check out his stuff. Subscribe to the Pickaxe and Roll podcast. Check it out on YouTube. Support his work at Mile High Sports. Ryan is really great. I just want to make this very clear that Ryan is very great. And I really we are at the halfway point of the season. We're past that. Ryan has been such a great addition to this show. Like when Adam left and I was like, oh God, what do I do? Ryan has brought energy and thoughtful insight and has helped us grow and promote the show and put more, content out. And I'm just really thankful that Ryan's on the show. On today's show, we're going to talk about everyone that got traded in the NBA, everyone, just all except for Atlanta, because Atlanta and Portland just sitting there being like, no, we're not trading anyone. Why would we do that? We'll talk about the Lakers adding Mark Williams, and we'll talk about the Warriors adding Jimmy Butler, and we'll talk about the Raptors adding Brandon Ingram, and we'll talk about, I'm sure some other stuff happened, and we'll talk about all that. And the Nuggets not doing anything, and probably not going to do anything, and why that's probably not the worst idea, at least right now, because they're playing really well. And the reason I say that is because the Nuggets took care of business tonight versus the New Orleans Pelicans. They get the win in this one. They win back-to-back games versus the Pelicans. They sweep what I call the duplex set. Tonight, they get the win 144-119. Michael Porter Jr. finishes with 39 points on 16 of 23 shooting. 39 points on 23 shots. That is beautiful. Wow. 5 of 9 from three-point range. 12 rebounds. 4 assists, 3 steals.
2 of 2 from the line, by the way. Only 2 free throws.
Well, they were all open layups, so or 3. I don't really necessarily think that was a bad thing, Ryan. Plus 23.
Oh no, I'm not complaining about the number. I'm saying this is just a bucket-getting performance, right? This was a truly impressive Mike performance, and it might be the best game I've ever seen him play. That's probably hyperbole, but in the moment, it just has felt really, really good. Some of the reads and there was a pass that he made to DeAndre Jordan on the cut for a dunk tonight. There were a lot of plays that he made the extra passes in transition. He wasn't selfish. He found the game, and the ball found him as a result. And he was aggressive when he needed to be. The pull up, Mike 3 that he had, I think in the second quarter it was either late first or early second. That was awesome. Just a tremendous Michael Porter Jr. performance. That was more than just the 39 points. Sad that he didn't fully get the career high because he totally deserved it tonight, but it still was a magical performance for him this season.
Yeah, I was thinking back to preseason and how we were like, this could be a huge MPJ year. He looks like he has leveled up, and then he has first couple of games, and we're like, well, so much for that.
Yeah. And it just felt kind of the same, right?
And it's just really funny that now we really have seen it bear out. It's a good reminder that these things bear out over the course of the 82 games. It bears out over the duration of it, because you do. I've often thought about this if we didn't talk about game by game reactions, if we did like it, I would not do this because we would not make any money. But if we only did podcasts after every 8 Nuggets games, how different the content would be, right? Like, and how much it would feel kind of different, and you would still be very much influenced by whatever the last game was. But you look at it just over the course of the season, and it's like there have been a lot of wins this season, not just wins and losses. Mike's had a career season. I thought Aaron Gordon was phenomenal tonight. I thought he was so good. And even for a game in which the Nuggets didn't play a lot of defense, I thought in that third quarter, he really clamped. I thought he did a really good job of making extra rotations and being the guy that they need him to be. They shared the ball. They moved it. They moved the ball. Jokic was his usual dominant self. Like, this was just a really quality team win. And they were outmatched. And I'll talk about that in a second, because if I don't, my brain will explode. But it is important just to kind of note, like, I like stuff that I have notes on the game where I'm like, really great quick reads by Julian Strother. Like, Julian makes reads that are second level. It's not first level reads. It's second level. He makes a move anticipating what the defense is going to do. And the second that they do it, he's ready to make the decision. And a lot of that is like feeds to Joker. And that's not just like Joker doing it. If you don't make that read and that pass quick enough, then Joker doesn't get the opportunity on some of these. Julian has like genuinely turning into a really good player. Like, Julian was 4 of 10 tonight. He had 10 points on 10 shots. But I'm telling you, like, I see something in Julian's game where he is actually making an evolution and getting better. Christian Brown, 23 points again. 20. How many games does Julian have, or does Christian have with over 20 points this season?
It probably is about 10 to 15 at this point. Maybe even more than that, if I'm being honest. Like, he has.
You talk. I'm going to look it up. Talk.
Okay. Well, he's just been way better than I've expected to. And you're talking about progression, and you're talking about these 8-game gaps of what these podcasts would be if we were doing it from more of a holistic perspective. I think that's fascinating too. And just being able to kind of step back and say, okay, in the moment they had that 3-game losing streak that they had on the road, and now they have a 4-game winning streak. And yes, it's because they're playing some really bad competition, but it is also because guys are making progress. It's also because guys are continuing to buy into everything, especially on the offensive end. Defensively, like, there's still some problems, and like Joker said it basically tonight, the reason they won was because they scored 144. It wasn't because of the defense. It wasn't because of anything. Although, like, they allowed 68 in the first half and 51 in the second half. So there was progression there. So it's interesting to see and interesting to evaluate. Denver, their offense has just been relentless. And when you see Mike go on that heater, you see Christian attacking in transition. I do agree with you, by the way, about Aaron Gordon. I think the decision that he made early on in this game, because he started 0 of 5. And I think the decision was like, you know what? No, I probably don't have it as a scorer tonight. Let me get everybody else involved and set them up as best as I can. And then he finished with 12 assists, tying a career high. That was that is just the evolution as a team, that the team's going to have different guys step up in different ways in the playoffs. And if you can win in different ways with different guys stepping up as facilitators or scorers or creators or whatever, that's the way that you win. So I agree with you. Christian getting better, Julian getting better, Aaron changing up things and becoming like still very valuable. It's all very important.
Christian's 11th game this season with 20 or more points, which is good. It feels like more. Like, it just feels like, like I would expect it to be in the 20s, because that's how it feels this season. He just absolutely, every single game, it seems like he's done this. What do you make of the fact that they're without Russ and like Jamal, 10 points on 7 shots tonight, 6 dimes, like, just kind of there. Like, what do you make
love Jamal's game tonight.
Ooh, talk to me more about
I
that.
loved it. And the reason why was because he saw what was going on, was very comfortable as the point guard and as a player that saw his team being successful in different ways, and was more than willing to get out of the way. Was more than willing to allow those guys to shine. Like, there's a lot of talk, and sometimes he over dribbles, sometimes he does a variety of things that I don't think people love. But he's not a selfish player, I don't think. I think what he does for the most part is believe that there are certain ways that he can impact the game the best way possible for his team to win. Tonight, he was very happy with 10 points, on 7 shots, 6 assists, trying to get Michael Porter a career high, trying to feed Jokic every time, allowing Aaron Gordon to be the facilitator, doing all of these things. And I thought he was playing reasonable defense too. It wasn't great. Like, nobody played great defense tonight, but it was reasonable defense. And so I love that. I think that, like, you talk about how guys get through the regular season and be their best selves in the playoffs. It's where you can go through the motions in a game like tonight while other guys go off, and you do not have to carry a 20-shot burden and a 10-assist burden all the time. So I loved it from Jamal tonight. I thought he was, like, making all the right decisions.
Zeke with 5 rebounds. One he jumped very high on, plus 16.
He did.
Pretty good.
He was plus 16, like plus 16 in 9 minutes. It didn't always feel that way, but, like, hey, sometimes you just have to be out there and be helpful. And, like, is he playing himself into a Nuggets rotation spot, just like being the 10th man when everybody's healthy? I don't know. That's kind of fascinating to think about.
No,
the answer's probably not.
The answer's probably not. Okay. I have a hard time because it's just like the show is for fans, and it's like I don't like being the negative guy. Like, I don't like that. I don't enjoy that.
You're going the other way because everybody's very high right now. It's fine.
Well, it's not just that. It's less that. I think it's okay to just be like, yeah, good team won a game comfortably. It's more of just like when the things that I notice are the things that I notice. I'm not like when I go to watch clips, like I rewatch the game. And when I go and I watch the clips, I'm not going in being like, I'm looking for this. And, like, yeah, you're always going to have biases then that get in the way. So that's just human nature. But you try and weed those out. I just got to tell you, like, okay, Julius Strawther runs a side pick and roll with Nikola Jokic. Okay, it's a right wing, high to mid wing pick and roll.
Yeah.
They send 2 at the ball on Julian Strawther and leave Nikola Jokic open.
Right.
Like, they did this multiple times. And when you do it with Jamal Murray, I get it. Okay, that's on the scouting report. No matter, like, where Jamal's at, and like, that's not changed the season. Jamal is still going to be line 2 on the scouting report. Okay? You don't leave Nikola Jokic open to blitz Julian Strawther. I don't care if you're like, well, we think we can attack his dribble. Even then, you don't do that. And if you do, you bring the extra guy over to guard Jokic, and you make Julius Strawther make the weak side rotation or the inside cut pass.
Right.
And they just, like, consistently, the decisions, and, like, Joker, they have nothing. They have nothing for Jokic, and nobody does, but the Pelicans in particular, because, like, Yves Missi is a rookie, and he's rail thin, and he doesn't have the size. They traded Daniel Tice today to the Oklahoma City Thunder along with draft compensation because Sam Presti's a sicko who's addicted to draft compensation. They don't have another big. They don't have one. And so, you know, they've got all these cross matches and smaller guys. And so Joker is just, it's not just that he's able to bully them. It's that they're trying to compensate for his size by going around him, and the Nuggets passing is so good. Do you remember those years when it was like the Nuggets can't get the ball inside of Nikola Jokic?
Yeah, that's done.
Like, the entry passes from everybody were so good tonight, and they've been so great for 2 years, and those are things that you forget about. Like, you take them for granted, but the Nuggets, like, interior passing is really great because it allows for those quick plays where Joker just gets it, turns and floats it up there. Yeah. Now, those shots are also ridiculous, and there's so many guys that would just miss those, including Anthony Davis over and over and over.
By the way, the left-handed scoop shot that he had underneath 2 guys on one side, where the only way that he was going to score was scooping it underneath Yves Missi's armpit. Very funny. Just like Yves Missi obviously has nothing for it. And, like, I get it. New Orleans is 30th in defensive rating for a reason. They are a horrible defense. And, like, when you remove so many of their pieces of talent and guys that they would have been counting on for defensive, like, substance, that's going to happen. So I totally, like, they are a cursed franchise. I am convinced at this point that team, like, Jordan Hawkins went down tonight. I don't know what the seriousness of that injury was, but he was like, he couldn't walk under his own power at the end of the game. So, like, they are cursed, man. And that's just it's a frustrating thing.
I do want to note this. So I get frustrated when teams make runs and we start to talk about like, hey, they're actually good. When the team is not good, they just hit like a favorable part of the schedule.
That's happened for Denver multiple times, by the way.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like Denver is a good team. Okay. Yeah. And so like you have to have a lot of nuance with, I think, when talking about the NBA regular season. And that's one of the things that I try and do. And it comes off as contrarian. And I'm not denying I'm contrarian, but I do think that like what I'm trying to do is to say there is value for good teams beating bad teams. There's no value in bad teams beating good teams because the schedule was wonky. There's value in a team like Denver just like consistently. I didn't say that, Big Tony. I did not say that. It's what I'm thinking, but I didn't say it. You can go to youtube.com/LockedOnNuggets, see what I'm talking about. But like there's value in good teams beating bad teams because it does help build your habits and your confidence and your growth. Because largely part of my point here is like Ken Patterson's in the comments talking about how he wants to see him beat good teams. Like, all right, beat some good teams.
Totally get it.
Here's the thing though. The history of teams that overperform their record by beating good teams in the playoffs, like I've done this research, is bad because the playoffs are such an individual environment. You take the stuff that you've done for 82 games and what you've learned about yourself, and then you basically remove that team from that context and you pluck them into this isolated neutral environment.
Sure.
0-0, got to win best of 7 against this specific opponent. And it's not about how good you are, how talented you are. It can just be like, we're just way better than you. But if you're within range, it's about matchups and tactics and luck. And that is kind of my point here, is that like, this is a good win. The Jazz win that they got that I raved about, when they beat these good teams, it's easy for me to be like, yeah, the Pelicans are terrible. But when you do it in such a way that it instills confidence and it does boost your encouragement about the team, and the team responds and is like, yeah, we're in a groove now. They're no longer acting like they just hate their jobs, which is how they were in November. And that to me is maybe like the big takeaway here.
It feels like they are moving in the right direction. I wouldn't say that statistically. Just it still feels like they are about the 4th or 3rd best offense and the 20th best defense on the season, and that's just gonna kind of be how they are in all likelihood. And maybe that's fine. Maybe that's okay in the regular season if they have answers that they can come up with in the playoffs that are just a little bit more improved. We can of course talk about that in the next segment when we talk about trades and talk about like, hey, you should Nuggets fans be upset if they don't do anything, which is kind of what we're thinking. But I do think that at this point, Denver has shown enough individually. Like Jamal's had moments, Mike's had moments, Jokic has had moments, Aaron's had moments, Russ has had moments, Christian's had moments, Peyton's had moments, Julian's had moments. A lot of these guys have had their times where they've really been able to contribute. And it's all about just whether they can all figure out a way to do that at the same time. I don't know if they're going to be able to. I don't know if they have the answers all the way around. And maybe they probably need more optionality when it comes to the playoffs like they did last year. But they at least have pretty solid talent. I don't know if it's great enough talent, but it's very close.
Has this stretch from Mike changed your mind at all?
Well, there was somebody in the comments earlier that was like, hey, Ryan's Zach LaVine agenda is in shambles right now, given what he's doing. And I sort of feel the same way. Like when you have somebody like him at 6'10" that can really like up his game and he rebounds really well and he spaces the floor, it's good. I still worry about a lot of those physical teams for obvious reasons. I still think that there are going to be matchups where they're going to need to find other options. And that's okay if they have the other answers to those questions. If they have another guy, like if Peyton Watson is ready, if Julian Strawther is ready, if Russell Westbrook is ready. But if they have to rely, like they did last year, if they have to rely on the 5-man starting lineup, like they did last year, and it doesn't work, that's where you get into trouble.
So I've just realized the thing I was trying to tell you the other night that I've not been able to find the words for. This is the thing I wanted to tell you because I talk about like we talk about this. You have to find the answers to the problems you face in the playoffs. You have to find those solutions. Here's the key. I think what I'm trying to get across to you is there is a chance that you just won't face sometimes you have playoff runs where you have to answer 24 questions.
Yeah.
And they're all different and they're all hard. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have to answer 4 questions. And if you answer those 4, and if you're able to have the solution for those 4 problems, you can win the title. I would argue
that was their 2023, by the way. That's what happened. They didn't really seriously get challenged in those.
No, but they did. See, I will actually defend that one because like that's one of the reasons why to me, and like people would accuse me of bias because I do this show. But to me, like watching it, it was like, no, look, they faced a double big lineup with Kat and Rudy with a combination that has the potential, obviously, in years coming to give them problems.
Yeah. Sure.
They faced a Phoenix team that has electric on-ball scorers and whatever else that team presented. They faced a big physical Lakers team that liked to bully teams with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. And then they faced a Miami Heat team with like precision basketball IQ, hot shooting, and Jimmy Butler. And they answered all those different questions, right?
Yeah.
The Celtics last year answered, hey, can you beat God, I'm trying to remember who they beat. Who was the first round?
Well,
Hawks.
so it was, I think, Miami without Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. Can you beat the Heat without Jimmy Butler? Can you beat the Cavs without Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen? Can you beat the Pacers without Tyrese Halliburton? Like, can you do that? Oh, you can. And then can you beat a team that doesn't belong there in any sense, in any way, shape, or form in the finals? You can. Okay, cool. You're the champion, right? So, like, you just may get those questions. The 2009 Lakers, they faced like a series of questions, and quite honestly, they failed the Houston series. And then Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady both got hurt. Like they were going to lose to the 09 Rockets. That was happening. The Rockets had them.
Yeah.
And then everybody got hurt. And like, that's just how it goes. Right. So the point here is that when trying to steer back to this game is, and Mike in particular, that, there are going to be things that Mike can't solve, and Mike's going to present you problems in some series, but you just may not play those series. And that's why I remain optimistic about Denver. That's not to say that it's like you can count on that. You can't. You do the best you can, and if not, then you have to go address the fact that you didn't have enough answers. Yeah. But they're not so far away that I can say definitively that that's not going to happen.
Fair. Like, completely understandable.
Let's take a break. On the other side, everyone got traded. All of the traits. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about Jimmy to Golden State. And, oh, God, Phoenix. Just, oh, God. We'll let the Nuggets fans share their feelings on what has happened to the Phoenix Suns. The Lakers got better immediately. We'll talk about all that and more on the other side here on Locked On Nuggets. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What are some of the relationship green flags? We often hear about the red flags we should avoid, but what if we focus more on identifying the positive signs in our relationships, those green flags? If you're not sure what they look like, therapy can help you identify them, actively practice them, and then even embody that green flag energy yourself. This is like amazing because this is all I really want to do. Like, I want to be a green flag person. I'm not, but I'm trying every day to like be that. That's what I want to be, is to be somebody that brings green flag energy. I want to be somebody that's like that. Whether you're dating, married, building a friendship, or just working on yourself, therapy can help you form relationships that love you back. Therapy helps you develop healthy boundaries and improves your communication skills and empowers you to set clear expectations and express your needs in relationships. Therapy provides tools for managing conflict in ways that strengthen your connections rather than break them down. I got to do work on this. Like, I'm not even kidding. I got to do work on this. I have like such a bad habit of putting words in other people's mouths and putting them on the defensive. And it's something that like, I got to do the work on. You got to do the work. Great Rick and Morty episode about this. You just got to do the work sometimes. BetterHelp makes it easy by offering online therapy with over 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from. And if you need to switch therapists, you can do so at no extra cost. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making this part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us here on Thursday. We'll have a show after the trade deadline. I don't know when. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know when we're going to get everybody together. I got like 700,000 things I got to do. But there will be a show after the deadline.
Yeah, my guess is that Swipe and I will usually do a show on Thursdays. My guess is that once everything calms down, Swipe and I will probably do a show at about 2 p.m. Mountain. That would be my expectation. And if there's something that happens, then great. If we have to push it back, then great. If not, then we'll see. And I'm sure that Matt, Swipe, and I will probably do a 3-man weave at someplace too. Oh, Cam is actually calling me right now. Cam, I'm on podcast. You're on speaker.
Yeah, don't assume anything, bro. And tell Matt that if I see Kevin Durant scrolling across my timeline, I am going to be the wildest man he's ever seen in his life.
He just hung up. Fantastic. That's getting clipped.
You can catch Swipe every day after every Nuggets game on his YouTube page at youtube.com/swipecam.
It's 2:15 there, by the way.
It's 2:15 in the morning. Go to bed, man. You got work in the morning. First off, I'll tell you, okay. The Nuggets will not comment or will not confirm or deny any talks that do not result in an actual trade to me. That is not a thing that they will do, at least not on record, okay? I will tell you that according to 2 sources, the Nuggets made calls inquiring about Jonas Valanciunas today. There were talks ongoing. Eventually, those talks did not yield an agreement, and he was traded to the Sacramento Kings because
reasons. Yeah,
sure. I don't know the Kings, man. So that's the kind of level of player that the Nuggets are pursuing. My understanding is that they continue to scour. There's a word. Everyone comes up with different adjectives and verbs at this time of year.
Really digging.
They continue to scour, survey. So here's like a good example. If I wanted to convey that that's actually scour is not the right word because that means that they're like intently digging. The Nuggets are surveying the landscape in search of a role player that they can acquire using swaps. That is what they were doing. So if they were scouring, that would mean like they're really intent on making a move, but they're not. They're more of just surveying the landscape and seeing what's out there. There is a war room set up at the offices, and there's a bunch of guys that are coming in and out of there, and everybody's coming in and out and doing their own calls and doing intelligence and all that kind of stuff. I'd love to write a book about it sometime. Okay. Cool. So the Nuggets Nuggets didn't do anything. Nuggets haven't done anything. There's questions about. All right, so Bruce gets traded.
Right.
He's still in Miami, yes, right now?
No, he's in like physically or like where his contract is.
Contract.
So he got moved to New Orleans.
That's right. Sorry.
So like
I'm getting mixed up.
So he's on a team that's now 12-39. They don't really have much of an incentive to keep him. They might flip his expiring contract if that makes sense for them for a pick, and maybe there's something that they could get there if somebody wants to get off of some bad money next year. But I think they're going to want to stay competitive. So my guess is that they probably try to buy him out.
Yeah, and if they buy him out, that makes a lot of sense. They're under the tax though now.
The Pelicans? Yes.
Yeah. So they don't need to buy him out because that doesn't necessarily do anything unless Bruce agrees to a big chunk of money, which he wouldn't. Why would you do that?
I don't know. Like that can be a good faith thing with an agent, of course. Like you don't want to keep a guy held hostage if he doesn't want to be there.
No, but that's like you're talking about Gail Benson willingly paying out a player's full salary. I think if Bruce was like, "Yeah, we can cut $7 million off of it," then for sure
he would take a haircut if he thought he could get to Denver.
You think so?
I think, yeah, absolutely.
I don't.
It wouldn't be like a crazy number. Like they'd have to. Look, it would only be like $1 million or $2 million that he'd be giving back.
I think when you look at what Bruce signed for, what happened after they signed him, what happened in Toronto, and his current value, I think you have to hold on to every single dollar. Like, as somebody that likes Bruce Brown, I'd be like, don't give any money back. No. Keep your money. You earned that. That's your money.
A lot of times in these cases, though, like guys will do the buyout and they'll take like 90% of what they were owed, and then they will try to make up the other 10% with the next
now,
team.
if that's the offer, then that makes sense, right? Like if there's a way for him to make more money by coming to Denver and signing another contract while the Pelicans save 10% or whatever, for sure.
And Denver, of course, could also promise him to get the taxpayer MLE with a player option on the end of it. So, like,
would the Nuggets really offer a player option? When one of the questions I think that's been, and somebody mentioned in the comments, I love Bruce, would love to have Bruce back. Bruce is one of my favorite guys I've ever covered. He belongs here. He honestly belongs here. Do they need him with Russ?
So the funny thing, not funny, but like the important thing is if you believe that Julian Strawther is ready for the playoffs, you just go with Julian Strawther, you accept that spacing, and then you don't play him if it doesn't work out. Don't you think that Michael Malone would love to have the optionality of going with multiple defensive guards that can do a bunch of different things? Also, that guys that are familiar with the Nugget system and will operate within that system and make sure to get the ball to Jokic and Murray and do the right things.
And the vibes.
Yeah.
The vibes would be incredible. Everybody be very happy. The second that guy walked back in, there would be a resounding huzzah. So I get it, but I don't necessarily know it's going to happen.
It probably won't happen, to be fair.
Yeah. But I will say this: he's not going to go to the Lakers for a first-round pick because they just traded their other first-round pick.
Mark Williams.
They traded both of them for Luka Doncic, clearly, because you would get everything. You would get every pick the Lakers have if they traded for Luka Doncic, right?
Yeah.
It's been what, 5 days? I still can't believe how dumb that trade was. And like, I've talked to a lot of people, and like, there's a lot of stuff about the Luka situation that makes you go, ooh, but I still can't there's no explanation for what they got.
It's just, there's no justification.
Okay. So let's talk about the Lakers thing, though. The Lakers do trade a 2031 first-round pick to the Hornets for Mark Williams. This is not Dalton Knecht and Cam Reddish. Notably, another clutch player.
Really?
Yeah. That to me is notable.
Okay.
But I mean, look, I honestly, they won. Like, they won the battle with clutch. Good for them. Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley both won in the Heat situation, which we'll get to in a second.
But to be fair, the Warriors lost because they paid Jimmy Butler $60 million a year.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. That's very funny. Okay, and they could win a playoff series versus Denver. Who knows? But I'm just saying, like, long term, it's not a great move. Okay, so like Mark Williams he's 7'2", he's big, he's strong, he's athletic. It's a great fit with Luka because it replaces because that was one of the things is I was like, man, you just gave him life, only got the rim runner that he needed, and now they get Mark Williams. Now the difference is that Lively can play. You know how there are 3-level scorers? Lively's a 3-level defender. You can switch, play hedge, play drop, play zone with Derek Lively and be successful. With Mark Williams, you're playing drop. Like, you're playing drop coverage, which means that you've got Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic, and Mark Williams in drop coverage. Now, on the other side of this is you have Austin Reeves with LeBron. You have Luka Doncic with the ball, with LeBron James as secondary creator, Austin Reeves, DFS, Rui Hachimura, and vertical up-down rim running pick and roll lob threat with Mark Williams. That's nom for the Lakers. The Lakers are a fundamentally offensive team now, and that is going to be like everything about the Nuggets matchup with the Lakers is going to be different now. So everyone that's in the comments being like they've beaten them 15 straight times or whatever, I hear you. I do. Yeah. I hear you. We just don't know. Like, you just don't know what this matchup's going to look like. Should they win? Yes, they should win. It's Mark Williams and Austin Reeves. Like, Luka's awesome, and LeBron's still good on a lot of nights, and DFS is a really good player. But, like, no, like, the Nuggets should win that. But we'll just have to wait and see. It's an entirely new thing, and Luka's going to be super pissed off, and there are worse options than Mark Williams. I don't think it helps them. And I do think that there's something to be said about this, which is, how is Mark Williams going to defend Jokic? Anthony Davis can't defend him, so who cares?
Yeah, they gave up on that idea. They got the best offensive player that they possibly could in Luka, and they got a theoretical excellent fit with him in Mark Williams, of course. And the other thing is that just looking at their bench, it's not that bad. Like Dorian Finney-Smith is on that bench. Maxi Kleber is now on that bench. He can play. Gabe Vincent's still on that bench. He can play. Shake Milton is probably not a guy that can play, but there are some other things that they can do, and I wonder if they also get into the buyout market as well. They still need a defensive wing of sorts. Like that's probably not something that they're going to be able to get, but if they were able to get it and get somebody that could reasonably match up with Jamal a little bit, then that's impressive. Dorian Finney-Smith will probably be their Jamal Murray defender. Jared Vanderbilt also somebody that could potentially do that, and that cramps their spacing on the other end. But they've got Luka Doncic and LeBron James. They'll probably figure that out. It's tough. Like they're a better team now, I think, than they were, and that's kind of tough given that I didn't think they would be, but now their team theoretically makes sense if Mark Williams has his head on straight and can handle 30 minutes a night in the playoffs, which he may not be able to do.
Somebody was asking who's going to guard Luka. Nobody's going to guard Luka. You know why? It's Luka Doncic, just like Nikola Jokic. They're both going to do whatever they're going to do. It's going to come down to the other guys. Like that's what it's going to come down to. Yeah,
Christian Brown guards Luka. Aaron Gordon guards LeBron.
No, you get it. No. You put AG on Luka. 100%, man. He's not fast. He wants to body you. That's why they killed the Wolves, is because you can't put Jaden McDaniels on him because he bodies him, and then he gets to that step back on the deep post. Like that's what you do with Luka. You got to have big bodies versus you have to guard Luka Doncic like a forward. You have to guard him that way. You attack him like a guard. You defend him like a forward.
The great thing about Mike, by the way, is that he does have the size to switch onto both of those guys and be credible. It's not going to be awesome, but like he can play in that series and play enough that you space the floor enough that it kills the Lakers.
I mean, but see, for me, that's one where it's like, we have never seen Dallas versus Denver in a playoff series. I thought we were going to get it this year. That's one where if Nikola plays an ounce of drop, they're dead.
He won't. He
better not. I'm just saying don't rule it out.
It's an exhausting series though. So there is something to it. Like they're going to have to mix some stuff in, of course, because you can't just give supercomputers the same coverage every single time. So they'll have to try different things. They'll probably switch them a little bit and then have them do some rotations and circle out of that. So there's stuff that they can do.
One of the things I would say here is Luka's very weird about who he attacks. So I'm going to be very curious to see that if JJ can get to him and be like, don't make it harder on yourself than it has to be.
Yeah. Just post up Jamal, post up Christian.
Force the switch, get Jamal. You don't even need to post him up. Just like get the switch onto him, drive, shoulder bump, step back. You've got it all day.
Right.
Make them triple you.
Yeah.
And like that's a very easy solution. But if he can't and Luka's still like, no, I want the hardest assignment, which is what he does sometimes. He literally is like, I want the toughest assignment and I'm going to break you. By doing that, that gives you a chance because you can at least like gamble with the efficiency. FBCA says, Mike on Luka, LOL. If you're switching 1 through 4, my man, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You don't get to just deny it because if you deny it, especially with Luka Doncic, let's say you try and deny that switch. Do you know what happens then? Luka loops around, and now you're in absolute scramble chaos mode, and all of your defensive principles are out the door. I'm just telling you, if Luka decides to attack with a 1-4 screen, you're switching it. That's what they're going to do, my man. That will happen. And if he destroys Mike, which is entirely possible, they'll call timeout and they'll switch it up. But
and they can also go to a situation where Peyton Watson's out there and providing them a little bit more athleticism and defensive intent. So I'm not sitting here and say that Mike's actually going to do well, but like the goal is to do less badly than the Lakers because you're going to demolish them on the other end of the floor.
Meanwhile, the Golden State Warriors make a trade for Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
They send Andrew Wiggins. I got to pull up the details.
It's Andrew Wiggins, it's Kyle Anderson, and it's Dennis Schroeder, along with a 2025 protected pick. I think it's top 10 protected for this year.
Dennis Schroeder said that the trade deadline was like slavery and then got shipped to Utah. Damn.
Man. Also,
So
did you retweeted my thoughts from Joker on the on the trade deadline, which I thought was very interesting. Like he is a very different view than Dennis Schroeder on
well, and
the
everybody,
trade
like, I
deadline.
mean, you know, what
Different
it reminds me,
situations, of course.
it reminds me of this, and I think about this a lot with comments that players make, as much as like I try and always acknowledge and showcase and talk about how hard the league is, because like this is just
Yeah.
like the competition at the highest level. It's hard on bodies and minds and spirits. However, there's a line from a movie called Too Big to Fail, which is about the 2008 economic crisis. It's an HBO movie you can catch on Max. It's great. And in it, a bunch of executives, a bunch of CEOs actually of banks are going into the Federal Reserve to go they're basically like having to break down this negotiation to try and take on the assets from Goldman. And
Sure.
in it, this one of the guys is like, I don't know how much more of this I can take. And the guy says, you're getting out of a Lincoln car on Fifth Avenue going to the Federal Reserve. It's not a Higgins boat on Omaha Beach. And I love that line so incredibly much, because it's like a rare showcase of a character that lives in this other world, being like patently aware of how ridiculously privileged he is. And so it was just really cool to hear Joker just kind of be like, you get paid a lot of money. This is kind of part of it. You go somewhere else, you play basketball. It's part of it. Like that's how life is. Life isn't how you want it to be always.
Yeah, it's not like you're not going to go play basketball over at that other place. Like you're going to go play basketball at that place.
So, okay. So
Jimmy,
they're trying to
like
figure out
on that front. I don't know how that's going to work for what it's worth. Like they have shooting, like they have Steph and Buddy and some other guys like Moses Moody that can shoot a little bit. I don't know if they have enough shooting to compensate for it, but
Moody,
yeah, Moody, yeah, that's something like that. They still don't have enough in the front court, like defensively, in my opinion, like size wise, to really seriously compete with some of these teams. And they're like, I think you posted this earlier. They're just old, man. They're still just very, very old.
It's a fascinating kind of combination of guys. So when you put Jimmy and Draymond on the floor, my immediate thing is like, oh man, you got two non-spacers on the team. But like Denver theoretically does that and it works, right? You know what's really kind of funny is like they're like the nuclear version, the Hall of Fame version of Russell Westbrook and Aaron Gordon.
No.
Like there's like a little bit of like translation there. Like and like Jokic is like the mutant center version of Steph.
Yeah.
And like Jimmy is like some weird alternate version of Russell Westbrook.
The difference is the Nuggets have Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. to take off some offensive pressure, and the Warriors have Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody and Brandon Bajimski.
I'm gonna pass on by that comment. For now. So
why?
Because I don't know. I think there's got to be a question about like can Buddy play in the playoffs, like because that's the thing is like that's how you balance it, right? Is you're like, all right, we're gonna play Steph and Buddy with Jimmy and Dre and one of their centers. Quentin Post is a person I've been told.
He shoots the ball,
so like that's how you kind of balance it. I don't know if Hield can play in a playoff series. Like Hield was going to be the guy for the Sixers, and then they got in the playoffs, and it was only one round, and Joel was hurt. But it was like, oh no, Buddy Hield may not be a playoff guy. Like he may not be a 16 gamer. Maybe he'll be different, but he's also had a hard time staying in the rotation. And like they brought him in the beginning of the year, and it was like Buddy Hield's like our guy, and then it like by game 10, Kerr was like, yeah, I don't know how much I can play this guy.
It's kind of like Dario in some ways.
Yeah,
like just gonna fade out of the rotation eventually.
So I think it's like interesting. One of the comments that was made to me is like, yeah, but the defense. And I'm like, I don't know. Part of my thing is that Jimmy is no longer, hey, we're going to put this guy on the opponent's best wing player and he's going to clamp him and he's going to score 40. Like that's not who Jimmy is anymore. Jimmy's like really good at playing passing lanes. So like in the playoff series, Joker's going to have to watch out because Jimmy's going to be sniping all sorts of stuff. He's just going to like, him and Draymond are going to pick off a bunch of stuff. But also the Nuggets are so good about just directing traffic, and there's only so much you can do. That's one of the frustrations that Draymond has with Joker now. You don't get to freelance because you have to deal with his size and physicality, and that dictates certain things where it's like, I have to do this. You don't get to just freelance and make up your own stuff, which is where Dre's really good. So in general, I don't know. Like, it is like a really interesting thing. Like, if you told me the Lakers made a run, because this continues to be my thing, is I'm just like, OKC's unproven. Memphis and Houston have major problems. They're really good. It's not that I think one's going to, I'm less confident than some people. It seems like most people are like, yeah, I don't believe in them. Because it's cool to have teams that you're just like, I don't buy them. And I'm very much like, I don't know, man. Memphis could make the conference finals. Houston could make the conference finals. OKC could make the conference finals. Denver could make the conference finals. Golden State could make the conference finals. The Lakers could make the conference finals. I guess the Clippers can make the conference finals.
Mavs.
But one team I feel pretty confident is not going to make the conference finals. Where did I go wrong? Can you tell me this? I want you to answer this because you were right about them and I was wrong.
Yeah.
What did I get wrong about the Suns? How did this happen?
So you bought into the shot profile and you bought into the defense being way better than it actually was. This was a thing that the Suns were always going to have an issue with. They do not have elite decision makers on their team. They do not have a center that operates and functions at a high level. The Suns are just like so beholden to their stars bailing them out. And when you find out that Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker can't really play together, that's going to be a problem. And I think very strongly about the Suns just didn't have enough depth. They didn't have enough defense. They didn't have enough athleticism. They're relying on guys that are 6'4" all the time. And they can't provide those extra advantages that other teams get at. So that's a problem. You're muted.
Okay, here's the thing though. They're 7th in effective field goal percentage. They're 4th in percentage at the rim. They're 2nd in mid-range efficiency. They're 4th in three-point efficiency, and they're 11th in three-point rate.
Hey man, they've got some bucket getters. They've got some shot makers.
Yeah, but listen though, they're not just taking the mid-range. It's 11th. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So why is the offense not better?
Because you have to be able to finish at the rim. You have to be able to.
They're 4th best at the rim. They're 4th best in rim efficiency.
But how often are they getting there?
Yeah, they just don't take them.
And that's the thing is the thing that the Nuggets have done that I don't think people really fully realized that they were going to do, they have abused the rim. They've gotten to the free throw line so often. They have just brute forced their way to an offensive number that is unbelievably high, despite the fact that they don't have a lot of shooting. The Suns can't do that because they're all finesse. They are not forceful. Kevin Durant can't do that stuff anymore, at least to the high enough level that you would want him to. And they don't have the same level of trio that we thought that they would, and we thought that they were going to be. That's just another factor of it. Also, Yusuf Nurkic is just a shell of a good basketball player, and he's not even playing anymore.
They're 7th in EFG. They're 15th in turnover rate, which is not good, but it's not awful.
It's not that bad.
They're 5th in free throw rate. I'm telling you, they just should be better. They're just not. And then they get through this entire thing and they know how bad it is, and they just don't do any. Now, I'm mad at myself because I heard Monday night that KD was not going to go back to Golden State, that he didn't want to, that they talked about it and he was like, yeah, I just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And this is one of those where it's you never know the timeline, because I don't know if the reports came out. If I don't know if the stuff I heard was more recent, and the reports that came out that very night about him maybe going back to Golden State were before what I heard, or because the concern that I had was well, what if I heard that and then there's new stuff that I haven't heard yet, and that's the new thing is now he's interested in doing it. It's you don't want to go out there and be on that limb, but I'd heard that KD was no, I don't want to do that. I think he was interested in Miami and they couldn't make it work. And Golden State came to the table with the $60 million a year for a 35-year-old cantankerous pain in the ass. If this works out,
well, good thing they have experience with those, Matt.
But here's the thing. Here's my nightmare.
Okay.
The Lakers process was awful, horrible, terrible. It was terrible for the entire 2010s. What became of it? They got LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and they won the title. The Lakers process the last 5 years has been awful. They relegated Marc Gasol to the bench for Andre Drummond because he was one of the clutch guys.
Yeah.
Horrendous process.
Yeah.
They did not manage their assets well. They did not draft appropriately. They did not develop talent. They did not capitalize around those guys. What happened? What did they get for it? Luka Doncic. Golden State tried to commit to 2 timelines. Didn't draft good enough guys. Haven't managed them. Haven't gotten them to work with Steph. Haven't gotten everybody on the same timeline. They wound up with Jimmy Butler. And it's just like, and they gave him too much money, and that shouldn't work. What if it just like works? What if like we're in a new era of just like life in America, Ryan, where like the worst process yields you the most success?
I mean, we've got some pretty blatant examples of that so far. So I get it. I get it. This is going to be like the NBA can't keep getting like the Lakers will keep getting away with it, but I hope that the NBA doesn't get away with it. They've tried to do away with so much of just the super teams and the singular franchises that are commanding everything. But then Adam Silver is also looking at ratings and wondering like, hey, how do we get ratings back up again? I don't know. Like, hey, am I going to shoot down Luka Doncic going to the Lakers? No, absolutely not. Like, that's obviously not something that he controls or
Dwayne Wade made like outright comments about like the league got what it wanted. I was like, that's an owner. That's an owner. So
I mean, the Adelsons are like that's out there.
Okay. Do we miss anything? What else happened? Brandon Ingram's gone.
Yeah, I don't know what Toronto's really wanting with that. Like, it just feels like they're in a battle of mid.
I am getting texts from some Raptors folks who are just like, what is this team doing?
I'm not sure. Like, is there anything that Masai Ujiri has done over the course of the last 4 years that makes me think that he's a good executive in the NBA? He drafted Scotty Barnes.
I think they've developed talent. I think the development plan has been really good. I think it's hard to find. What happens here is that you have a number of hits. Barnes, Siakam, Anunoby, right? Norman Powell, I think you need to consider to be a win, right? Like, you develop these guys, and then after you do that, once you have like a stretch where you don't, people are like, yeah, but like, look at these guys, as if the expectation is that you're supposed to make diamonds out of every, and like, not to, when you draft above 20 every year and you rely on those guys, it's hard to get doubles every time. Your expectation should be maybe a single.
Yeah.
With picks 20 through 35, right? And it's like, I think that they've developed like like really good guys. I think here's what's interesting is like, I feel like they've done a good job of acquiring good contracts, but then not swapping them for the return that you need to.
Yeah.
Where it's like getting Jakob Poeltl, stroke of genius. Getting Jakob Poeltl and giving him an extension and not flipping him out again when every contender needs centers, that's dumb.
Hey, you remember when they hoarded Kelly Olynyk and decided that they didn't want to ship him out, and then they shipped him out here for Brandon Ingram? Yep. I think that's pretty fascinating.
Well, and it's like, well, here's the thing though. It's like he was just like a throw-in because Kelly just aged out, and like I've been a KO guy and argued for years that they need him, and I've stopped doing that because it's just like, like
it's not true anymore. Like,
time's up. It's okay. Like KO had a great career. Like KO is like a great player in the playoffs for Miami. Like KO's done more than a lot of guys that have a lot bigger reputations and make more money in this league. KO's like done the thing in the playoffs. KO was a 16 gamer. He was really good.
That game 7 for Boston will live in infamy for him. 100%.
So like that's, and it's like, but also he's not that guy anymore. That's okay. Yeah. Gary Harris, I've been thinking a lot about Gary Harris today. And Gary Harris was, I really just cannot stress this. Like, Gary Harris was the second best player on Denver. There was a brief moment of time before Joker's ascension when Gary was the best player on Denver. Very few guys can say that you're like the best player on any NBA franchise, no matter how bad they are. Gary was awesome. Gary was tremendous. And then he wasn't. Stuff changes. I hope Gary has another. I would love Gary to have a third act. I would love Gary.
Love for him to come back. That'd be awesome.
THTR201 says, I think about Gary Harris every day. We're up against an hour here. We've gone way long, but I don't care.
Yeah, I don't know how this happened, but I'm glad that we did it because I think everybody has certainly enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, we'll have to like slice it down, I think. Okay. So yeah. Tomorrow we'll do one after the deadline. TBD. We'll let you know on Twitter. Most of you, like, obviously you'll have the normal, like the DNVR show, etc. We'll have one that we get to. We'll break down what happens. If there is a trade, if Denver does something significant, you'll find out. And you'll have reactions from everybody. Swipe is the one that you're going to want to tune into. Yeah. Okay. And then the Nuggets have another basketball game tomorrow.
I've been to the arena. Like they were on a 5-game road trip, and I feel like all that rest for me is just gone. Like it's over.
Just tell me about it. But we're blessed because we get to cover professional basketball. We're lucky to do what we do. We'll cover the game versus the Magic tomorrow night. We'll see whether or not the Magic have the legs on the second night of a back-to-back in altitude. We'll talk about all the trades. We'll get everything covered for you. We'll have more coverage tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you guys again tomorrow here on Locked On Nuggets. Stop waving.
I like it. It's funny.
It's not. It's awkward.